Alright, so this is the video tutorial for the Intro to 3D Animation for the first lab. Basically what I want you to do in this lab is to follow along with me, and then when you're done you will submit it. Okay, so just open up Maya. I don't really care what version you have. That doesn't really matter because I'll download wherever it is. I would say 2018 to above would probably be best. 2017 wasn't real great. 2019's okay. 2020 I think is already out, but I don't know if I have that installed, but I can install it. Anyway, so boom, we got Maya open. First thing we need to do whenever you're starting a new project, so meaning like, let's say I'm making a short film and there's going to be characters and scenes and all those things, I'm going to make a new Maya project folder, right? And let's say I'm going to make, I'm doing another project and it's for a video game. I would make a Maya project folder for that video game. It's not every model. It's not like if I'm doing a film and there's like character A and character B and character C. I don't make a new Maya project for each of them, but I would make it for the film, okay? But this is going to be a new project, obviously, because we haven't done one yet. So we're going to make a Maya project folder for this, and we're going to do basically the primitive animal render lab, all right? So first thing you want to do is this. You're going to go File, Project Window, and then once you click on New, and then we will call it your last name, primitive animal, like that, and then hit the little folder, and I'm just going to direct mine to the desktop. So I'm going to go Desktop, okay, and hit Select, and then hit Accept. Okay. Now, when you make that name, it cannot have any spaces in it. It has to be, I'm going to minimize this so you can see. Notice that the name is Cone, all lowercase, then a capital P for primitive, then a capital A for animal, but no spaces. You should get used to, if you're going to be working in this industry or graphics or anything like that, or anything with computers, I know that you can write your file names and put spaces in them. The computer doesn't understand those, though. It visually shows it like that, but it doesn't mean that that's what you're going to see. So if you put spaces in there, it will act like it made it, but it didn't actually. It'll make a folder, but none of the subfolders will be there, and the rest will be all weird. So no spaces. But basically what it does is, if I open up this window, which is about over here, what it does, it automatically makes all these folders for us, and a couple of files. So like whatever my workspace looks like, it stores it there. All of my Maya files will go in the scene folder, so the actual Maya files that we're working on will go there. When I bring in textures or images, they'll be in the source images folders. They'll come from the source images folder. So if I want to take like a grass image and put it on the ground, I would throw it into this, and then I would link it. And then any images that come out of Maya would go to this images folder that when I go to render it. And there's a bunch of other ones here too, but really those are kind of the only ones that we're going to be dealing with. But it automatically makes this file folder structure. So if you've ever done any sort of like video editing and stuff, you can save the video editor's file, but it doesn't save the videos in there, right? It just saves the reference to those. So you want to make sure that everything you're working on all goes inside this one folder. Otherwise what will happen is that you might give me the Maya scene file, but I don't have the images that are being painted onto it, so I won't see it. I need the whole folder, okay? The whole Maya project folder. The project folder is the entirety of your project. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to make an animal. I'm going to make a dinosaur because dinosaurs are fun. And the best way to kind of lay this out is that if you've ever done any 2D drawing or anything like that, so we'll do construction model. Let's see if this images. We'll do cartoon construction model. But if you've ever done any sort of animation, one of the things that am I not getting what? This is weird. I'm not sure why. Animated character construction model. Is that going to give me what I want? There we go. Okay. So, if you've ever done any sort of drawing and animation and hand-drawn animation, one of the things they do is they use basically three-dimensional forms. They'll draw those forms in order to basically keep the character consistent from one artist to another, and to keep consistent within the animation itself. It helps give it volume, so if you have to animate them turning around and what have you. So if you've ever looked at any sort of like character model sheets, you will see that they actually have this underdrawing that they draw on top of their characters in order to understand what they look like and to keep them consistent, right? So you can see like this guy is obviously made up of a bunch of these basically primitive shapes. That's what you're going to want to do for this, okay? So I'm going to think about a dinosaur, what it would look like. It's mostly going to be spheres, but probably spheres and cylinders is more what we're going to be doing. Okay. So if I'm looking at my thing here, so if you look on the bottom left, you can see that Z is pointing this way. That means that this is to the front, this is to the back, because Z is depth, okay? And X is left and right, and Y is up and down. So I want to make sure the front of my animal is going to go here. I'm going to start from the chest, the torso area, and work my way out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a cylinder. So if I click on the cylinder here, it will make a cylinder, but it will be of a specific size. And that might not be like super, yours might be a different size. So these buttons up here obviously are quick click buttons that you can click on and they just automatically do it. But they already have the settings put into them. So what I want to do is I'm going to make a sphere, and I'm just going to use that sphere for everything. So go to Create, Polygon Primitives, go to Sphere, and then hit the, Polygon Primitives, Sphere, and hit the Option box. You'll see a little box there. That's going to bring this up. If you just click Sphere, it's going to do the same thing as clicking this button. But if I hit the Option box, it'll actually bring up the options. And I'm just going to go ahead and make mine 16 by 16, just so the resolution's a little bit higher and it's a little bit easier to manipulate. So go ahead and click on that and hit Create. And now you're going to see we have a sphere. All right, so that's all fine and dandy, but I need this to make basically that kind of sausagey shape, right? Because I'm thinking like a, what do I want to do? I'll do a long neck. I'm going to do like a long neck animal, right? So like a brachiosaurus or something, all right? So it's got to have that kind of shape. So basically I want to make that lima bean shape on the bottom. But you see, it's not a lima bean. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to hit E for rotate. Okay, so it's Q, W is move, E is rotate, and R is scale. Okay, I know they should have made R the other way. Anyway, so I'm going to rotate this to the side so that the lines are going this way, right? Then I'm going to hit R for scale. I'm going to scale it out wider like so. I'm going to hit W for move. I'm going to move it. Don't grab it. What you don't want to do is grab it by the center. Okay, because if I move it by the center, like watch, let's say if I just want to move it up. I'm like, I just want to move it up. Do you think I moved it just up? No. When you grab it by the center, it moves in all axes. So if you look, oh man, it looks like I moved it up center. Hang on a second. Let's see. Okay. If you look, you can see I actually moved it back a little bit too. See how this line is not on origin? Origin is the center point. So it moved it up. It moved it back a little bit. So what's better to do is actually grab the handle and just pull it up like that. And now you can see no matter where I move my mouse, it'll only move it in the one axis. And the one axis I want to move it in is just straight up. Again, remember, I'm keeping an eye on my Z is here. So I'm going to put the head over here. Okay, so that looks fine. But it would be nice to basically be able to manipulate that, right? So I can do the whole object movement, but that doesn't really give me that much, all right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to tap spacebar, and that's going to bring me up to my 4 panels, right? So these are what we call orthographic views, which means there's no perspective. So if you look at here, you can see that there's a vanishing point. See how these lines of the grid all go towards some point, right? There's shortening. There's perspective, like you would see in the real world. Orthographic view doesn't have that. It makes it infinitely flat. It's much like when they build a house and they have a blueprint, right? It's a completely flat drawing, but obviously it's meant to represent a dimensional object, and that's basically what this is. So I'm going to tap spacebar. You don't have to click in here. You just tap it, okay? And then I'm going to go to the side view. I'm going to tap. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is it's a little bit easier to try and move it here than to try to do this part in the other thing. So what I want to do is I want to just kind of make this a little bit more of like a lima bean shape. So there's various components that we can grab onto. I'm just going to kind of concentrate on the vertices at the moment. So this here, if you right click over top of the model, right click and hold, you'll see this little window will pop up. You have to be on the model. From over here, well, see now the model's selected. Hang on a second. From over here, see it doesn't show up. But if you're over the model, it will. Okay, because it's context sensitive. It means depending on where it is and what's happening, it changes what it is. All right, so you can see that there are these various components that we can choose to. So when you're moving around like this is called object mode because I'm moving the whole object. If I want to move a component of it, I use one of these. This is called component mode, okay? Now the three main things that it's made of, you'll see there's other things in here, but the three main ones are vertex, edge, and face, okay? So vertex are the points. You can stay in this view, I'm just showing you real quick. Vertex are just the points here. So basically, it's the points on the model, right? So I can grab a whole bunch of them. That's vertex, the points. If I go to edge, right, click, drag up, edge, that is 2 points, more or less, together. If I double click on an edge, it'll go all the way around it, and I can grab an edge loop, okay? So I double click on this one, and I grab that edge loop, right? And the last one is face. And if I click on this, it grabs basically the flat face, all right? And you can grab whole faces and move it around. That's basically a lump sum of it, okay? Now, if you want to go back to object mode, you just right-click and drag up to the right. Now, you're going to notice that I do a lot of this, where I'm like, oh, I need vertex. I'll just click and drag real quick. So the reason why is that you don't actually have to click, hold, and drag up. You can just click, and like if I want edges, just click and drag up real quick, like this. Just click and flick, or flick for vertices, click for faces, click for object. You'll get used to it. You don't have to do it that way. Just click, right-click, and hold if you want. But if you see me doing it, it's I'm trying not to, but that's why. Okay. So tap spacebar. Okay, so we're back in this view. I just want to make it this lima bean shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to vertex. It's just easier, and I'm going to click and drag. Let's say, I don't know, like this front little bit here, right? Now I can move this, okay? And you might be like, oh, you're grabbing it by the center. You're not supposed to. It's okay to grab it by the center in the orthographic view because it's there is no depth. It doesn't allow me to move it this way. Here, if I move it up, oops, I grabbed the axis, it will move it in all three axes. But the one axis is not locked here, okay? So I can move this up and bend it around, but it's a little bit hard. So I'm going to show you another way of moving objects, is that you can use what's called soft select. Soft select is when you hit the letter B, like bad boy, right? So you hit B, if you tap it on and off, it turns it on and off, okay? Toggles it on and off. If you hold B and click and drag, you can adjust the fall off, right? So if I go real little, it's only going to affect a little bit. So see how it's loosely affecting that area. If I hold B, click and drag really far, it's going to affect a whole lot of it. Kind of see what we're getting at here. But see how this is much more organic looking than me trying to manually. Don't get me wrong, a lot of times you're going to want to manually move the vertices, but this will allow me to more flexibly move them. Okay, so I got that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to I'm going to hold B, and I'll go roughly about half, we'll say. And I'm just going to kind of pull this up, and I'm going to hit E for rotate, and I'm going to rotate it down like this, and then I'm going to hit W for move, and I'll move it up a little bit. Okay, and that looks okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of click and drag over this area, and then hold B, click and drag. I'm just going to try and thicken this guy up a little bit. Alright, and we'll click off. I'm going to tap B to turn that back off just because I don't like it being all like that. And we need to make it so we can have a tail come out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a smaller area here. So I'm going to click and drag for marquee select. Okay, and then I'm going to go B, click and drag. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to hit W for the move tool. Pull it down a little. E for rotate. I'm going to rotate it a little bit. Like that. And that should be a good enough. And actually, I'm going to do another thing here too. I'm going to hit R for scale. Generally speaking, with R, you want to grab the center. Because otherwise, it only scales on one axis, which most of the time when we're scaling things, we usually want to scale things proportionately. And if you grab the center one, it scales it proportionately. So I'm going to grab the center, and I'm just going to kind of make this, I'm going to hold B and undo that a little bit. There we go. Okay. Then I'm going to right-click and drag up to right for object select. Right-click, object. Okay. So now we have kind of a base shape. I'm just going to go tap spacebar. I'm just going to kind of see what I got going on here. Not the greatest, but, you know, it's a thing. It's a thing that's there. So you can kind of see what we're getting here. And again, just to kind of explain what I was saying with the scaling. If I grab this, you see it only scales it in one axis, and this will only scale into one. If you grab it in the center, it'll scale all of them proportionately. So unlike the other two, like even if I'm, let's stay in object mode. Even if I'm rotating, I don't grab it by this, because see it's rotating in all axes. Even this, I usually rotate one or the other. Also, don't grab this one either. I will just grab these axes here, the three that we have, which represent the three axes. Okay? Okay. So that's looking acceptable. So we'll call that like kind of a base thing. All right. Let's go ahead and just, because it's easier, let's go ahead and just do the tail next, right? So I need to make a tail. It's going to come out and around. That's more or less a cylinder, I would say. Right? So we'll use a cylinder. So again, if I click on this, it's going to make one, but it's not going to be super great. So what we're going to do is we're just going to adjust the settings and kind of go from there. So I'm going to go to Create, Polygon Primitives, Cylinder, Option Box. Yay. So I don't really care about the radius or height. Axis divisions. Okay, I'm thinking just to keep it the same as this one, let's just go ahead and do 16 again. And then it says height divisions. So by default right now, it's only going to have one division. So I'll just hit, this is another thing. You notice there's create and apply and close. Close will do nothing. If it apply, it will leave the window up. So I can put in another setting. So see how there's no divisions this way? It put 16 this way, but none this way. So let's go ahead and on the height divisions, let's go ahead and make that, let's say 8, probably enough. And then we'll hit create. When you click create, that will execute it and close the window. So that's why we use that. All right. So now we've got this tail guy going. I'm going to pull him over. So make sure you use W. I'm using this arrow. Now another trick that might be helpful to you is that you're also going to notice that we have these so they're locked to an axis. But you'll also see these squares. Okay? What those are for is that it'll allow you to move in 2 axes, but not the other one. So for instance, say this is a red square, it means it won't move it in the red. So this will move it up and over, but it will not move it down. Won't move it this way. Okay? So if you see me using that, that's what I'm doing too. So I'm going to go up like that, E for rotate, and I want to show you another thing too. So when I have this object like this, I want to make sure I have the channel box selected. Tool settings, this is what's currently over here, but go to channel box. If you don't see it here, it's these items here are what you see down here. So it is possible to not have them up there. So you see there's none up there, but if I click on channel box, that will pop up and be gigantic apparently. Okay, we don't need all that. But what I want to show you is this. What you see here are the basic transforms of what the object is doing here. So watch, if I move this way, if I move it to origin, origin again is this line here. So in world space, this area, this right here is 0, 0, 0. It's 0 on Y, 0 on X, and 0 on that. So if I take this and I move it down here, if you look at my transforms, you can see I'm very close to 0. But watch, each one of these is 1 unit. See how there's this grid? So if I move over Z, back 1, it's going to give me about -1. See how it says minus 0.92 or whatever? That's what it's doing. All right? And if I go forward, it's forward. So if I want to move it exactly forward, let's say 4, I could type 4 up here, and it's exactly 4 forward. Now this is useful because, for one, you can move things that way. But let's say I wanted to make this perfectly 90 degrees. Instead of rotating it like this and being like, I think that's about right, I could go to my rotate X. I would suggest starting to rotate it, and then just type in 90, and now it's perfectly 90 degrees. That's a little bit easier. Okay. So let's go ahead and make this tail work. So I'm going to scale this tail a little bit wider, and then I'm going to scale it, the whole thing thinner first, and then we'll scale it a little bit longer again, and then I'm just going to kind of move it over like this. And then I'm going to switch again to that side orthographic because it's a little bit easier to work with. And we're going to, again, go to vertex. I'm going to click and drag this. I'm going to hold B, click and drag. I'm going to go to about there, and I'm going to move it up to this. Go up here, I'm going to rotate it like so, and we're going to move it pretty close. Good. I'm going to grab this one, make this a bit larger. Now, I'm going to hit the space bar, spacebar. You don't have to click. You just tap spacebar and just hover over. What I need to have happen is this. The tail should get thinner, right? Should have done this actually before I did this, but hit R for scale. But you're going to notice that when I scale, it scales on all, right? So watch. It's going to pull. See how it's pulling these towards it? Which is fine. You can do it like that if you want. But if I grab this one, so it does both the X and the Z, it won't scale on the Y. It won't pull them towards me. So I'm just going to scale this down a little bit. And then I'm going to pull this down back a little bit more so it's not doing so much. And then, oops, there we go. Come on. A little bit more. Okay. And then I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to hit W for move. I'm just going to pull it this way. And I'm going to pull it up. And I'm going to rotate it. There we go. So we'll call that a tail. Okay? Okay. So that's a pretty ugly tail. Right now it looks like a rat tail, so I did a terrible job, but I'm a terrible person, so what are you going to do? Alright. So that's pretty good. Maybe I should just make a rat. New plan, we're going to make a rat. Now, we'll stay with this. Alright. Now what I want to show you is, if you remember when I made the cylinder before, it was 8 sides, but then I went to create an polygons cylinder and did the thing. Now watch what happens when I just click on it. It's going to use whatever the last settings were that I had. So once you set up settings to something that you want that's kind of consistent, you can just click on the shelf here and use it that way. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this and I'm going to make this the neck, right? So I'm going to do kind of the same thing. I'm going to scale it as a whole first down roughly to the right thickness. I feel like it should be a little bit thinner this way too. I think it's one of the problems with this guy. I'm going to scale this one thinner this way. It should probably be a little bit better. Okay. I think his tail's too thin or something. I don't know. Okay, so go like that. Let's scale it down a little bit more. And let's scale it up like that. Okay. And now what we're going to do is move it. Now, let's go ahead and right click, go to vertex. Now, what I've been doing is going over here, which honestly would still be easier, but I just want to show you something. When I go to click on this, right, let's say I'm like, oh, I want these edges, or these vertices. When I click like this, I got more than just those. When you click and drag, it goes through it. See how these are selected too? So if I go like this, if I select like this, it actually grabs everything. It goes through to the other side, okay? So you have to be careful about that. Sometimes that's a desired trait, sometimes that is not. So if I want to grab just this bottom, I got to make sure I'm perfectly parallel, like so, and then I can click and drag across. Now, we didn't cover this yet, but if I hit 4, that's wireframe mode. 5 is flat shaded, 6 is texturing, 7 is lighting, which is going to make everything black because there's no lights. Okay, so I'm just going to, so if you really want to see, you can hit 4 and then click and drag across, and then I'm going to hit 5 again to go back into this. All right. Because a lot of times I like to work kind of in 3D view instead of having to go back and forth. It's just annoying. Okay, so you can go like that, hold B for soft select, and I'm going to go ahead and I want to move it down and over, and then I'm going to rotate it like so, and then we'll go down and into it. It's acceptable. And then this is going to be the dopiest looking, stupidest looking thing. Okay, then I'm going to grab this one, and I'm going to take I'm holding B, click and dragging, like so, and I'm just going to rotate this guy like a this. He looks pretty cool. Alright, I know he does. Alright, so we're going to go like that, and there we go. That is simply gorgeous. Now for, let's go ahead and do his legs, and we'll do his head last. So for his legs, again, it's just going to be cylinder. So I'm going to click on a cylinder, and I'm going to go ahead, and everything else we've been keeping center, right? And we've been keeping everything forward on the Z here. But what I want to do with this is actually move this to the outside, because he's going to go on the one side of the leg, okay? So we're going to go like this, let's move it back over, like that. And I'm going to scale it, so it's a little bit thinner, okay? And go a little bit this way too, so it's a little bit more ellipsoid. Scale a little bit larger, like so. Alright, and now from there, I'm just going to do the perspective view, or the orthographic. So I'm going to right click, go to vertex, and we're going to grab this. I'll make it rather large, W. I'm going to pull it up here, and I'm going to kind of rotate it a little bit, and then I'm going to grab this one, and I'm going to take W, and I'm going to pull it back this way a little bit, and let's rotate this also a little bit like this. Alright, and then you can see it needs a little bit thickness here, so let's do this. I'm going to right click, drag up to edge, and I'm going to turn off soft select by hitting B. I'm going to click here, and then I want to multi-select, so I'm going to hold shift and click, click, click. Then I'm going to unclick this one. So if I hold shift, you'll notice that it turns from a into a minus. So shift is both select and deselect. So I'm going to hold B, click and drag now, like this, and then I'm just going to kind of pull this up and over. Okay, I'm going to hold shift and unselect that, up and over, like that. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to vertex, and I'm going to grab this little bit here and kind of, right, and then just grab this and move that down, and we'll call that a leg. It's not a great leg, but you get the idea. Tap spacebar, spacebar. Okay, I'm just going to kind of stick it like that, and yeah, so now it's the front leg. So let's go ahead, we'll do another cylinder. Okay, I'm going to pull it over here, over here. Let's scale it, R for scale. Scale it this way. A little bit thinner. Usually the front leg's not as big. Okay, scale it up. Alright. And let's go to orthographic here. Okay, and I'm just going to make sure that this is like, that the feet kind of meet here. Okay, and then again, I'm just going to go to vertex. I'm going to click and drag. Cool. We're going to go vertex. Come on. Give it to me. There we go. Alright, and I'm just going to basically try to make this work. So I'm going to go like that. I'm going to move it up. And I'm going to kind of rotate it like this. And move it back a little bit. Then we're going to grab this one. Take this guy and move that a little bit more like that. Alright, and I'm going to take this part, and I am going to scale it a little bit thinner. I'm going to grab just this one point, and I'm going to hit W for move and move this way. Maybe grab that, thicken that up a little bit. Grab this one here and pull that one that way. Okay, and we're going to call that terrible. All right, so that's we're going to call those legs. All right, so I'm tap spacebar, tap spacebar. Now, what I'm going to do now is grab both of them. There's a better way of doing this, but we'll cover it later. For now, we're just going to kind of, do whatever here. And we can do other things too. Let me just do this real quick. But no, we're going to leave it like that. I changed my mind. Okay, I'm going to grab this guy, I'm going to control D like dead dog. Control D will duplicate. And I'm just going to click and drag it over like so. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of go like that. So now you can see we have our two legs, right, and our back leg there, and now all we need is a head. So to do the head, I'm just going to do the sphere, and I'm just going to keep the same settings that I had. I used the red one to pull up and over. Okay, and I'm going to rotate this, and instead of doing it manually, one thing you can do is I can look, right? So if you look, see how there is a red, a blue, and a green. If you look down here, you can see the axes. The one I would want to rotate this on is the red one, so that's X. So I'm just going to go over here and rotate X and type in 90. Alright, so that way it's facing this direction. And then I'm just going to take it and go like this. R for scale. Kind of go like that. Let's scale it again just on the one axis. Alright, and then I'm going to right click, go to vertex. And I am going to again go to the orthographic view, just because it's a little bit easier. And I'm just going to try and just grab areas with the soft select on to try and just generally give it a shape like so. Alright, and let's spacebar, spacebar. Okay, let's go here, and I'm going to go vertex again, and I'm going to try and grab, So I want to grab this one, but I want the corresponding one on this side. So the easiest way to do this is actually, well, there's a couple ways of doing it, but we haven't covered it yet. We're just going to do this. I'm just going to click and drag like this. Because I clicked and drag, remember, it goes through the model. If you just click, like if I go here and I just, come on, really? F8, okay. If I click on that, it's not going to click, it's not going to go through. It's just going to grab the one that's facing the side. However, if I click and drag, you'll see it actually goes through. So with those two selected now, and I'm going to take my soft select down, a whole bunch. I'm just going to kind of pull that in. So like that's kind of where his eyes would be, we'll say. Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. All right. And that is a terrible dinosaur. So I would suggest spending more time on it. You can further kind of embellish this. I'm going to end this video. Oh, wait. I want to do one more thing. So let's go ahead and create a plane for him to be on. So click on this plane and just scale it up. And then just move it down like so. And then I'm going to turn off the grid by clicking on this waffle. Okay, good. So now he's got a ground. Okay, I'm going to end this video here just because I think we're close to 30 minutes. But I would spend, wow, he's like, wait, look how big his head is. Anyway, so I'm going to end it here. But I would spend a lot more time, just kind of moving it along. Now, I know like we're just sticking shapes together. It's actually not too much different than doing like actual character modeling. But just, spend more time on it. Go ahead and make your own animal. Normally, I want you to follow me exactly, but if you, I would actually prefer it if you just try to make your own animal, be it a dog, cat, whatever. Not cats, because cats are lame, but whatever you want to do. But I'm going to end it here, and then the next video, I will cover adding materials to it so we can paint like eyes and spots and things like that. Okay?